So today we have my RadioShack electronic calculator from 1973 to 74. Not quite sure the year, but that's when it was manufactured. Model number EC-200. And like all RadioShack products, it does have a catalog number. It is 63-602. And I do have it is complete in the box, as you can see here. I'll show you all directions. And the box is in pretty good shape. Let me open up the top here. Has a little tiny rip right there, but after you open up the top, you see a little foam piece, and this is the charger right there. And then we just remove the top and expose the calculator, the charger, and down here is the actual little bag for the calculator. And up stuck on top of this foam piece is the little guide for the operating instructions for the calculator. Now this lower piece, as you take it out, the little bag for the calculator, it's kind of, I don't know if this has ever actually been used, but let's go ahead and take this out carefully. There we go. You can see the bag right here. And this is kind of interesting. Here's a little strap for the calculator right here. And it looks like, what do we have here? This is a printout. It's kind of funny. This is a customer account application for Wells Fargo. I'm not sure how old this thing is, but this was down here with, looks like a Christmas card and some kind of stationery. I'll have to read what they said, but whoever owned this before me left a couple of their correspondence in the bottom of the box. So looking closely at this instruction manual, you can see that, RadioShack, a Tandy Corporation company. It has a little introduction here. It says the calculator has a whopping over 6,000 transistors plus other parts, and of course the LED screen. Some operation notes, a little bit about the keyboard itself. And then it kind of goes into some example problems, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, etc. More complex calculations you can see here. And so that's kind of cool. And then on the back, I actually have this little stapled, this is actually the back of the calculator, a little example. This little thing stapled to the back. Nickel-cadmium batteries have been installed in the calculator. Before using, it's basically saying you want to plug it in and charge the batteries for 10 to 12 hours for full charge. So it's kind of cool that I still have this little slip of paper. So let's get to the calculator. And so here is the RadioShack calculator, and you can see the front right here, the sides, bottom, the top. This is where the power charger plugs in right there. And the back, it has a nice little kind of abbreviated instructions. I could kind of zoom in here to show you what it looks like there. It has 4 little rubber pads. They're still present. And then 2 screws to actually, you have to unscrew these to get to the battery compartment, which holds 4 AAA batteries. And the battery compartment screws actually come all the way out. So as you can see here, these are the screws, so don't lose them when you remove them. Okay, so now I do have the battery compartment open, and I just have some standard Energizer batteries in there. There is a switch, which you can see right here, which you can switch from standard batteries, like I have in now, to rechargeable nickel-cadmium batteries. Just like that, when you do that switch, you could start charging it with the charging port right there, and you could actually charge nickel-cadmium batteries. Now, when you're not using rechargeable batteries, you should keep it on the standard battery switch. I understand you can kind of screw things up if you're not careful. I think there's a slight voltage difference from like 1.5 volts for standard batteries and 1.2 to 1.25 for nickel cadmium. So when I originally opened up the battery compartment, these RadioShack inner cell batteries were in there. Looks like brand 23-125 nickel cadmium rechargeable. And it looked like they originally had some corrosion on them, but those look like just deposits, and they actually cleaned up quite well, and the terminals of the calculator were just fine. I treated them with some vinegar, and there was no real damage done. And here is the charger, the AC adapter. The model number is just the same as the calculator, EC-200. RadioShack. On the other side, you can see some of the input specifications, output, the 6 volt output. And this is what the connector looks like, connecting to the calculator itself. So this is this keyboard layout is essentially a Texas Instrument keyboard layout and was widely used in the early 70s for these pocket kind of calculators, and is basically almost identical to the famous Commodore C110, which is also the Bomar 901B, which is widely thought of as the first true pocket-sized calculator. So this keyboard basically uses the clicks-on key style, which was widely used in the early 70s on Texas Instruments and other calculators. Basically, this kind of keys even made it into space, basically on the space shuttle. Underneath these little keys right here is kind of a conical circular pad of metal, which creates a springiness and creates the switch that when you push down, it actually connects the switch and reads it to the electronics. Now, at the time, this calculator was a whopping $90 to $100, depending on which kind of ad you looked at, but and that was a lot of money at the time. And so this, although this was a cheaper model, the RadioShack calculator, it was still quite expensive to purchase. Okay, so looking at the keyboard, you have the traditional 1 through 9 keys here with the 0 and a decimal point. You have add and equals there, multiplication, division, and then a negative and equals right there. I'll explain that more in a bit. You have a clear screen. You have a clear kind of error screen. So if you make an error, you can hit that one and you will correct the last entry or erase the last entry you made. And then you have a display recall right here. And then you have this little constant switch right here, which it's currently not on K, but then if you move it up, it is on the constant setting. And this will actually allow you to save one entry for multiplication or one entry for division. And then right up on top is the power. So it's currently off, and you switch it to the right, and it's on. Now, it is an LED display. It can show up to 8 characters, but it actually has a ninth spot right here. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so that's the 8. If I hit 9, it'll actually show an E on this side, showing that's kind of an overflow entry. It's just basically telling you that you have more entries than what you can display. Now, an interesting feature about this calculator, after about 30 seconds, the display will change to a single digit, and that is to save energy. And so we'll wait for that to happen. And you can see it just faded to the first digit. And again, that is to save battery life, since these calculators tended to eat up batteries. And just to see the whole thing again, you just hit the D button and you can see the entry re-shown. Now this ninth little spot also sometimes shows a little square, and I'll kind of demonstrate that right now with one calculation. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the 8 areas that you can put numbers in, and I'll say plus, and then go down 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then equals, and then you see a little square with 1.1111, etc. Now that's not the true value. Basically what that square says is that for the real value, you move the decimal point 8 spaces to the right for the actual number. So anytime you see that square, you know that the decimal point should actually be 8 places to the right. So doing actual addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division on this calculator is probably somewhat different than your standard calculator today. So with we do have a plus equals button right here. So you know you just 1 plus 1 equals, and that's 2, and then you could hit 4 equals 6, so that's 2 plus 4 is 6, and you do it, let's just and then you do 6 equals, and it goes to 12. So at least the addition seems about the same. But now subtraction is a little bit more different. So you see this your negative sign here with the equals, okay? And you have positive with the equal sign. So which equals do you push? Let's just do one example with 10 minus 5. So let's just go 10, we hit minus, and then 5. Okay, now which equals do we push? Well, I don't know. Let's just do this one first. So we hit equals there, and there we get 5. So 10 minus 5 is 5, right? But actually, this is showing negative 5, and that's not correct because the actual value should be positive 5. So apparently we hit the wrong button there. So let's start again. So 10 minus 5 equals. Well, now it's 15. Actually, it's negative 15, so that's not correct either. So how do you actually do subtraction with this calculator? So what we're doing wrong here is we're thinking of this key right here as a minus sign. So 10 minus 5, but it's not a minus. It's actually, think of it as a negative symbol. Same thing with this plus. It's not a plus, it's actually positive. So you're actually defining the numbers as you go. So let's do this the way we're supposed to do it. So we first put in 10. Now we have to define whether that 10 is a positive or a negative. So we're defining it as a positive. So we have to hit positive first. And now we can hit the 5. And now we have to define what that 5 is. And since we're subtracting 5 from the 10, we're defining it essentially as a negative. And together, the positive 10 and the negative 5 are going to add up to 5. And you see that there's no negative symbol there. And so that's what you're doing. Basically, for adding and subtracting, you're basically putting in a number, you're defining whether it's positive or negative, and then when those two are combined, you're basically adding those 2 or 3 or 4 numbers together. So for instance, if we go 10, a positive 10, so we hit 10. And if we want to subtract 2, we have to define that as a negative 2. So we define that as, so that's 8. And if we wanted to add another 5, we have to hit 5, and then we hit add, or positive 5, and so that's 13. So rather than subtraction and multiplication, or excuse me, adding and subtracting, you're actually just adding up either positive or negative terms. And so multiplication and division are similar. So if we want 5 times 5 is 25, if we can just hit 5 times 5 equals 25, right? So we hit the positive 5. The first 5 was by default positive since we didn't actually define it. So if we were to hit 5 negative first, so it's a negative 5, then times a positive, a 5, and we define it as positive, then it's negative 25. Same thing if we went the other way, 5 times 5, and now we define the second 5 as a negative, And when we hit this button, it defines it as a negative and also makes everything equal together. So it's negative 25. And we know a negative and a negative multiplied together is a positive, so we could do 5 negative. We multiply that with a 5, another 5 negative, and that's positive 25. And so that's how this type of calculator works. So the last thing I want to cover is this K little switch here, this constant function. So we're going to move this up to the K. You notice there's a little red mark now here. And so the constant, let's clear it. It either remembers the first entry you put in for multiplication or the second entry you put in for division. So let's just use a constant of 6 in multiplication. So we hit this up, we clear it, make sure everything's clear, and so we hit 6. Now that will be the constant. 6 is the constant. And now we hit times, and let's just do 5. And then equals, we're defining the 5 as a positive, so we'll hit that one, and that's 30. So 6 times 5 is 30. But it still remembers the 6 as a constant. So if we hit, let's go 6 times 2. So we just have to hit times, and now 2 equals 6 times 2 is 12. So it's remembering the first number you put in, the 6. Let's just do 6 times 4. So we don't have to put in 6, we just have to do times 4 equals 24. And so that's how it's remembering the first entry for multiplication. And so for division, it remembers the second number we enter. So we enter a first number, and then whatever we enter as the second number is we are dividing by. And so it will remember the constant for what we're dividing it into. So as an example, we clear it, make sure it forgets the constant. And let's just divide something by 2. So let's just put in 12 and then divide it by 2. Now it won't remember the 12. It will make the 2 the constant. So we hit equals, and there you go, it's 6. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now it remembers the 2 since that's the constant. And so let's just do, now let's just hit divided by 20 equals. There you go. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. Let's do divided by 33 equals. There you go, 16.5. So it will keep on remembering this what the 2 as the divider number. So for division, it's always the second number it remembers you enter. For multiplication, it's always the first number you enter. And when you hit the clear, it will forget all the constants. And so I'm just going to switch this back down so we don't have that function set. And there you go. That is my RadioShack EC-200 electronic calculator. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.